what I'd like to invite you to just to consider with me before we dive into the experiential bit today is that we collectively, without any doubt, at least from where I stand, are shape-shifting. Another way to say this is we're at a threshold, we're at a turning point. We have arrived to a place where there's no going back, and we don't quite know whether we can move forward. There's some questions around that. Will we be able to finally move forward in a way that's actually sustainable, possible, survivable by all living beings? And will we bring our true hearts and evolutionary intelligence to this moment? And it really remains to be seen. So we're very, very definitively, raise your hand or both of your hands if you feel that any of this is true, or that if you're in agreement that this is a moment that we're finding ourselves in. Good. I'm happy we're seeing this all together at the same time. So I want to share some observations. I've been, obviously, like all of us, really contemplating and reflecting and thinking about this and bringing my entire body of work into the context of where we are collectively. And I'm going to pay attention to where you're calling in from in a moment here, but let me just move with this train of thought here for a moment. So I'm just gonna go straight into it and name that I feel us to be in a new rhythm. And we don't know what that rhythm is. We don't know what that rhythm is. From where we stand, we don't really have the full-blown intelligence, the full-blown capacity to see where we're going. In other words, we can't write this new story from the old one. We can't actually draw on what's already happened all the way in order to write the new chapter. Obviously, we're going to draw on what we've already learned to go forward. What I'm really saying, though, is that there's something about where we're going that we just can't fathom yet. And so this other piece that I wanted to suggest, just to throw at you and to see how it lands, is that while so many of us, including myself, for so long have been spending our time feeling like we have to figure it out. We have to figure out how to go about it, how to be activists, how to be agents of change, how to promote social change, how to look for a change in culture, how to figure out what organization to support, how to figure out what model to come forth with in order to move forward. In other words, we've been really, really digging like full body, full mind into the old model of how we've known how to operate. In other words, logos. Logos is an ancient Greek word, and it stands for the principle of science, evidence, linearity, structure, proof, and rationality. To know where I'm going, I need to figure out how that goes. And I need to prove that I have a sustainable evidence for inviting others to join me there, and so forth. So I want to hypothesize with you today something that I've been very deeply, deeply coming into the knowing of in the last months, as I've been granted this incredible amount of freedom and spaciousness in my life because of the circumstances we all share. I've been coming deeper and deeper into this understanding that, well, let me just hypothesize. Let me just say, this is a question. What if? What if? Because there's no certainty here. And I certainly don't know any more than anybody else does. But what if this life that we are so longing to go to, this life that we know is more just, more equal, more rich, more abundant, more real, more earthly, more honoring of humans and earth and animals and species alike. What if it just can't wait to happen to us? What if all it's doing, that life that we so want, but we can't imagine and we don't know how to get to, what if it is simply longing to happen to us? What if actually the only thing that's possible is for this new life to simply happen, to come, to be allowed to happen? What if we're just standing at the doorway of the life that can't wait to come? And what if our entire unfolding is about this time around, instead of just trying and figuring it out and proving more and more theories of how this new thing is going to help us, is to actually let go and come deeper and deeper and deeper into our deep body rhythm, that deep, deep evolutionary intelligence of this astounding organism that the deep body is. The only organism, by the way, that knows earth time as opposed to clock time, this deep body of ours. What if the way to come into our new story is to simply let go and allow, by arriving into this other intelligence that we've never fully occupied, that we've never really fully culturally embraced? So just what if? Yeah. So this is a question I'm proposing, and I don't know if we're going to give it an answer today, but I think it's a really, really good way of phrasing a question. And before I go any further, I'm going to look at where in the world you're calling in from and just read some of the places, because I think we have nearly 50 people on the call. So right now I'm seeing British Columbia, Canada, Stamford, New York City area, South Africa, Northern Germany, Arcata, California, LA, Michigan, Norway, Berkeley, Moore, California, Sacramento, Alabama, Oakland, London, Austria, Amsterdam, Napa Valley, Ohlone Land, Oakland, California. Thanks for naming the native origin, who the land truly belongs to. Denmark, is that Philadelphia? More Holland, more Norway, Australia. Wow, thank you for being up in the middle of the night. Whoever, is that Vida? Of course it's Vida. Thanks for being up in the middle of the night, Vida, again, to be with us. Spain, Mexico, Mount Shasta. Oh, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for choosing to be here. I'm very aware of how much online content is offered these days, and I find it incredibly nourishing that you've chosen to be with us. So just a couple of other threads that I want to hold with you, and then I really want to give this a lot of space to go into the deep body exploration, into the felt ways, which I believe to be the true new language of this new story that I'm proposing, that can't wait to happen to us, only if we turn our intelligences, our ways of operating upside down. So I named logos, right? The ancient Greek word, the principle of structure, linearity, rationality, evidence, science, proof, right? And that's, if I have to speak to where we house that in the body, that type of intelligence, that's in the upper stories of the body, right? So the cognitive body, head, neck, upper shoulders. And this other intelligence, actually, I'm not going to say opposing, because it isn't. I'm going to invite us to think about Eros, which is the kind of the counterpart to Logos in Jungian and especially in ancient Greek philosophy. So Eros is the balancing force, not the opposite of Logos, but the balancing act. And Eros is housed, in my understanding, in the lower stories of the body, in the lower levels of the body. So pelvis, womb, belly, waist, kidneys, seat, tailbone. Yeah. Not that we have to divide the body like that too much, but it has its place. And so because I described what Logos is, I need to say then that Eros in its nature holds the knowing, the human and earthly knowing of mystery, of the non-linear, of intuition, of wildness, of sensuousness, of the lack of structure, of vast upshifting emotion, of sexuality. And very significantly, let this be the last thing I say, and let us hear it with all of the receptivity. Eros is about the less visible, the invisible even. Whereas where Logos is all about form and what is visible by the eye, Eros is about all the things that matter that we can't see. So these two forces, we have lived in Logos for centuries. You and I including, we have operated our stories from Logos. It's just been the cultural script. No fault, no guilt. That's just where we've been. The invitation now for me, in my way of thinking, and I'm inviting you to that, to kind of to just test that hypothesis today with me, is that Eros, the balancing force of Logos, is longing to write our new story by bringing our head deeper into our bodies. Not that we have to turn the mind off, not that we have to exclude Logos, but we want to dance with Logos, with Eros and Logos need to be introduced again, like lovers. So that is the basic premise that I'm bringing to the call today. And the understanding that if Eros is deeply housed in pelvis and pelvic floor and yoni and womb, and you don't have to even have the female anatomy, obviously, to have access to Eros, but the pelvic floor, the pelvis, the bottom, the tailbone, the beginning of skeleton, the root chakra. You know, the Maya, and I think some of you have heard me speak about this before, the Maya spoke of a pelvic skull. Just like we have the skull that holds the brain, this pelvic skull holds this other brain. And I love thinking about that as the skull of Eros that holds the erotic intelligence of the body, as opposed to the brilliant intellectual intelligence of the body. Both brilliant, you know, no question about that. But so this one, you know, also, like, I think this is really important to name too. A lot of ancient traditions, including prominently the ancient Norse, the Nordic traditions, thought about the pelvis, especially the yoni, especially in the female anatomy, as having direct channel access to the earth. So yoni, pelvic floor, and that was the messenger, that was the direct link from where all of the intelligence of the queen was drawn. And the kings trusted it. The kings trusted it in ruling the countries, ruling the kingdoms. So it was spoken in the legends, at least. So to restore the pelvis, the root, is to reopen that direct channel. And I don't know about you, but I have worked with my root and pelvis for the last several years very deliberately. And it's a very, very compromised area of our bodies, of my body. Because I work with dozens of people all around the world frequently for the last 11 years I know that this is true for a lot of us, that communication channel is really compromised, very fragmented at best, clenched, contracted, clogged, and mistrusted. It's not trusted. We're scared of it. And so it's like our ability to attune to it is reduced. All right. I think that's all I want to say. That's been a lot of context, I think. And so the invitation today will be to go to, in a very empirical, experiential way, to these places of our bodies that are the house of Eros, the force of Eros in our bodies. Of course, Eros is in the earth, all around us. Eros is that force that connects, that loves, that propels us toward each other, towards a loving relationship with all that surrounds us. So it isn't just inside of us, but inside of us, it has a house in the deep, deep bottom of our body. And so I'm very curious of this experiment of what it's like to restore the capacity of root and pelvis to be the leaders of where we operate our lives from. Okay, so that is the invitation. What happens when that becomes the practice, the experience? So two more things, and hopefully quickly and clearly, but I feel like context always helps to practice. So if this new rhythm we've been speaking about, the new story that's trying to happen to us, that's wanting to happen to us collectively, is already known in the psyche of the earth, in the evolutionary layers of earth and animals and ancestors and body, then what I refer to as deep body rhythm, your deep body rhythm, my deep body rhythm, that is, for me, deep body rhythm is the intelligence moving in our deep bodies, your deep body, that knows that story, knows that the only intelligence that can attune to this new story is our deep body rhythm.